Hi friends, Sam here with Happily Hooked. So we are back with our textured Bernat Blanket Breezy yarn. I'm so excited about this. So I'm gonna show you guys how to crochet a ball using textured yarn. So just like a little ball that you can give to kiddos to play with. We're gonna do this one, and then I think we're gonna use the blanket yarn as well. So we've got two sizes of them. But I wanted to show you guys how to use this textured yarn and how fun it is for little ones to play with, and they can't get hurt with it, which my little ones liked to throw things when they were small, and these little balls won't hurt you. So I'm super excited to get started with this, and I'm gonna grab my crochet hook and I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Hi friends, when you look in the description below this video, there's going to be a link there that contains free patterns. Make sure you click that, check it out, and I'm so excited to see how you make them. Bye guys. Alright, so like I said, today I'm going to show you guys how to work with textured yarn. We're going to make a cute little ball with it. There's a couple tips and tricks that I recommend while working with textured yarn. This won't work for everybody, but this is what works for me. So I have my 5mm hook, my tapestry needle, a little bit of polyfill. You can also use like scrap yarn for inside of these as well. I just use polyfill. I like making these because my kids and my cat like to have little balls and play with them. This will probably go to Ikora because you know how she likes to play. So we've got this. Now when working with textured yarn, the biggest thing is you're going to need stitch markers, and you need to feel for your stitches. You're not always going to be able to see them. So I recommend having stitch markers. So I've got a couple, throwing them everywhere. So I've got a couple of them right here that we're going to use to kind of keep track of where we are in our stitches. So for this one, it's a really small tutorial. It's not like a huge pattern, so I'll have the instructions for it on the screen as well. So we're just going to make a magic ring, and we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put 6 single crochets in here. So we're going to make our first single crochet, and this is where I'm going to put my stitch marker, because it's going to be tricky to find that when we get back around. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're gonna pull on our tail and cinch that closed. And where the stitch marker is, we're gonna slip stitch these together. And we'll chain 1. And then where our stitch marker is, we're gonna put our first single crochet, and we're gonna remove the stitch marker and put that back into our first stitch so we know where we are. And then we're gonna put another single crochet in the same spot. So we got 2. And this is where it gets tricky. You kind of have to pull your yarn apart a little bit and feel where the next spot is. So then we're gonna put 2 single crochets in the next stitch. There's 4. Six. 8. 10. 12. So we've got 12 now. So we just increased all the way around, and then where that stitch marker is, we're gonna slip stitch those together and chain 1. So we're starting to get the base of our little ball already made. So now where that stitch marker is, we're going to put 1 single crochet and put our stitch marker in. And then in the next stitch, we're gonna put 2 single crochets. So it's a single crochet and then an increase. And if you see, I'm kind of like pinching the yarn to find out where these go. All right, so we've got our next increase row done, and then we're gonna slip stitch where that stitch marker was and chain 1. So now what we're gonna do is we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. So in that same stitch, we're gonna single crochet and put our stitch marker, and then single crochet around. So we're just feeling for the stitches. And every now and then you get lucky and you can see where that V is. So you can crochet into that V, but most of the time it's a little bit tricky, especially when it comes to textured yarns. So we're just gonna crochet around, and then we'll crochet around one more time. So we'll have 2 rows with no, or 2 rounds with no increases. And if you miss a stitch or have too many stitches or anything like that, you can always just tear it back to where your stitch marker is, or you can keep going. I have done that because you can't see any mistakes really, especially when it comes to textured yarn. All right, so now we're gonna slip stitch these together and chain 1, and then single crochet again in that first stitch, and we're going to single crochet all the way around again. So feeling for those stitches is a big deal. That way you make sure you don't miss any. And like I said, you do get lucky sometimes. This past round right here, I've been able to see the threads on this yarn because this one isn't fuzzy all the way around. You've seen my last review on this. It's got like that strand right there, so it makes it a little bit easier to find your stitches. But like a go for faux yarn, you're gonna wanna like really feel and pinch and squish your stitches to make sure that you can find all of them. But I just use my pointer finger and my thumb, or my middle finger, my thumb, to find them. All right, so we've gone all the way around and we slip stitch and chain 1. So now we're going to put a single crochet in that first one and put our stitch marker, and then we're going to do a decrease now. So we'll go into one loop and pull up a loop, and one into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then single crochet those together. So if you've not worked decreases before, normally you'll see me, I would go in through like the first loop of the V. But for this one, to make sure that it's thick enough for this textured yarn and the polyfill won't come through, I just go through, so we got our single crochet, and I'll just go through both sides and pull up a loop, and then both sides and pull up a loop, just because I want to make sure that that stitch is thick enough that it won't come through. So single crochet, pull up the loops. And this is just my personal preference. You can do this however you want. This is just what I feel is easiest for working with textured yarn, to make sure that it's thick enough, especially because like this ball is gonna go to Ikora, my cat, and she is yelling in the background because she heard her name, but it needs to be thick enough for her. And now we've got our slip stitch and our chain 1. So now we're just going to decrease all the way around. And it looks like I had missed a stitch somewhere in here, so I have an extra decrease, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. Like I said, you can, with this kind of stuff, you can kind of just wing it. There's not any big holes or gaps in it, so I'm not too upset with that. So this is where I'll pull out my tail a little bit, and I will pull and make sure that this is nice and tight for that bottom ring. And then I will just tie this off probably just once, because this yarn is really tricky to get it undone anyway. And then you can cut it if you want to. I will just tuck my tail in there. Make sure to not push that one in, and grab a little bit of polyfill. Tuck that in as well. And then I'm going to cut a pretty good sized tail here. And add this to my tapestry needle. And then I'm just gonna sew the top closed. You can also decrease again, but I'm just gonna weave this around. Following the stitches as best as you can. Till we get back to the beginning, and we'll pull it shut. And then I will just go across it and loop my yarn over and pull that into a knot, and then I'll do it one more time. So across the hole, wrap my yarn around it, pull it tight, and then I'll take my yarn and just push it through the middle of the ball, pull it out the other side, snip it, and now we have another little ball. So like I said, they're not always going to be perfect when it comes to working with textured yarn. You can get it pretty identical, but they're not, it's textured yarn, so it's a little bit trickier to work with, but it is fun to work with. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this yarn, but I do like to use the yarn that I get for the reviews so it doesn't go to waste. So these will go to Ikora and she'll be happy. I can make a bunch of these, turn them into snowballs for the kids, add a couple extra increases to make them a little bit bigger, and they can play snowball fights in the house when it's too cold to go outside. But yeah, so that's how you make these little textured balls with textured yarn, and a couple of my tips and tricks. If you have any other tips for working with textured yarn, leave those in the comments for me below. And I hope you guys like this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!